Hi everyone. Yeah, so if you've clicked on this video, you know what I'm going to talk about. And this is something I've been trying to work out in my own head for the longest period of time. Because I guess I just have this mind. I mean, it's common amongst men to just want to make everything make sense. In the Bible, it says that um, everything a man does is right in his own mind. So I guess it's just an instinct to work it all out, to square the circle, to find out what the real thing is. And this mystery of the shills, and please stick with me because this is going to take a while for me to unpack everything. Um, this mystery of why there's this tension in the China YouTube community between shills and people who are suspicious of China's motives or they're skeptical or whatever. And today it just, it came to me. And anybody who's watched my videos is well aware what side of the fence I have historically been on. And that is the side of the fence that says, look, China doesn't get a fair go. China doesn't get, like, the title of this video, as you've seen, is fair, honest, sensible. And there hasn't been a lot of fairness to China in the past, I don't think. Certainly in terms of, like, my lived experience in the country, I don't see the big bad China that you see in the news. Now, what has created this China in people's minds? I've got this beautiful book behind me. Let me just go back. I'll just push my chair back, and I'll get it. This book, possibly an annoying sound. This book is called The Opium One, and it's by a woman called Julia Lovell. And I recommend that everybody reads it. It goes into the details of what the Opium War was. And interestingly, like all wars, the Mathesons, the Jardine Mathesons, they were paying newspapers to say this, paying newspapers to say that. But after she deals with the two Opium Wars, she talks about the literature of the late 19th century. And she talks about the authors that created this fear of China, and it is connected to opium, and it's all connected. And I'm reading another book about Genghis Khan, and that's all connected as well. But I haven't finished reading that, and yeah. But anyway, I can definitely recommend this book to everybody. And what it made me realize when I read this book is that serpentza and Lao 86 and China Uncensored and Stan in Poland and Lewis Hand and all those people, they're plugging into something that has been around for a long time. This idea of China as something that can, or is willing to, and this idea of the Chinese as being this kind of like villain, in a sense, that wants to upset the balance or upset the harmony of the European-led world or the Western-led world. I'm not saying they're not trying to do that, but I'm not saying that might not be their goal or their hobby or whatever. But what I am saying is that this idea has been around for a very long time, and those guys are just, they're tapping into that. So it's very interesting. I certainly suggest that you do read that book. Now, what motivated me to make this video today was actually a comment. I commented on this guy's video. I'm not going to say who it was. And this guy commented back. And basically, it was about COVID. And this guy, okay, I'll say who it was, New Moves. New Moves ran around, and he ran around all of these hospitals in Guangzhou and he just sort of said, look, there's no COVID epidemic. And, look, he's got every right to do that. That's his channel. I don't hate New Moves. I don't despise him. I don't think he's the worst guy in the world. But unfortunately, there is a bit of a pandemic going on. And unfortunately, the hospitals are quite crowded, Now, the comment that I made was basically there is a COVID pandemic happening. It's actually, it wasn't that blunt, but it was just there actually is, a lot of people that are sick, and I've been sick. I'm still recovering, I don't think I still get tired easily and whatever, but it's okay. I'll get better. I've been swimming and stuff again, and I'm getting better. And then this guy kind of came in and he said basically that the hospitals in Britain were not as good as the hospitals in China. And this was really confounding to me because, I crashed my electric bike, I crashed the motorbike, I've been to hospital a few times. I even went to hospital a few times, with my wife's family, going to different hospitals, and I've seen the hospitals. And I grew up in hospitals. My mum was a nurse, and I used to go and visit her in the hospital, and and I've been to a lot of hospitals in Australia. So this was very confounding to me, and I was thinking about it, and we were commenting backwards and forwards. And then I realized this whole thing with the Shills is basically, it's the Shills and it's the Forodai, or it's the second generation rich that are living abroad. This commenter is living abroad. They don't necessarily have a lot of experience in their own country. They've always been to the best of everything, and they're very proud of their country. They don't want to say anything negative about it. And then you have the Shills that are kind of promoting the same thing. They're saying, oh, look how great the hospitals are, and look how amazing everything is, and it's very efficient. My Siri just flashed up then. I wish I could meet Siri in real life. I'd break his nose. He's so infuriating. But anyway, and these two forces together, it's a little bit like the Baptists and the Bootleggers. When the Baptists and the Bootleggers get together and you get prohibition, it's great business for everyone. It's great business for the Baptists that are baptizing all of the people who have given up alcohol, and it's obviously a great business for the Bootleggers. And I guess the Shills would have the similar interests, or they would have the same goals as some of these nationalists or whatever. But look, who gets left out in all of this? It's the Laobaixing, it's the common people who are actually having to go to ordinary hospitals and have to experience regular Chinese healthcare. And look, Chinese healthcare does have some strengths. I definitely want to say that, at the outset. I like the way they give little massages to people that are old, and I like a lot of the I like a lot of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of that kind of stuff. These traditional medicines and acupuncture and cupping, and that stuff's quite cool actually. I definitely respect that, and I like it, and I think it's a strength of the Chinese healthcare system. Okay, but China is a developing country, and it doesn't have the same level of resources as other places do, and the hospitals and everything, it looks completely different. I don't want to go off saying all this kind of stuff, but I think everybody can imagine, it's very different. And look, I mean, the British, the Australians, we don't run the world anymore, but one of the things that we're most proud of is healthcare. And I really do believe that, even though it's not perfect, it's far from perfect, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty much the only thing that the country tries to do. We spend a lot of money on healthcare, and we have helicopters running out to get people in the middle of the night, and all kinds of stuff like that. Now, getting back to my other point was this collaboration between the nationalists and the shills builds this China that isn't real. It builds a China that is not that doesn't exist in reality. This China that could take over the world. This China that could potentially be a threat. And it's really sad. And I'm not saying that all of the shills are really evil and all of the shills are really bad. I'm not saying that. I mean, some of them have definitely crossed into that territory. I think a lot of the shills, they're well-intentioned, they love the country, they feel the magic, and there is magic here, there certainly is magic here. They feel the magic, but then they just go a little bit too far, and they start to, I guess, they want to stay positive, and it's important to stay positive, but it's also important to realize reality, and to stay in reality. If I wanted to run around with a camera through the different hospitals, I wouldn't do that. I think that's very, very disrespectful. But to compare like the level of resources and the experience that most Chinese people have in China with healthcare, and to compare that to what goes on in a country like Australia, where they spend 5 times as much on healthcare, is ridiculous. And these kind of people, along with the shills, they will tell you that China has the best of everything, that China is the best country in the world, and they're entitled to do that. That's their choice. They will tell you that China has the best pools, the best parks, the best libraries, the best shopping malls, the best roads, the best of everything. And in some instances, that might have a ring of truth to it. And certainly, like, the Chinese have achieved a lot, and they've done some amazing things. They've done some beautiful things. But when you're comparing, like, a developing country to a developed country, there are a lot of things that are different. And a great example would be garbage or trash, like there's trash everywhere, basically. Like, Chinese people wouldn't notice it, but to me, as an Australian, there's rubbish everywhere. For example, okay, that's the kind of thing you're going to find in developing countries. And anyway, look, I don't want to focus on negativity here, but what I really want to say, and I'll come to the end of what I'm trying to say right now. China as it really is, what China really is, which is something that maybe I'm not, like, able to actually fully explain, or nobody could, because it's such a big place, but the real China that isn't, like, represented, isn't the same China represented by the shills on the nationalists. The real actual China is good enough. It's a wonderful place. And I don't believe that China is a threat to the world. Not because they couldn't be, but because they aren't. They just aren't. And like, at the moment, when we have, like, this COVID pandemic and people are suffering, I don't understand this whole mentality of seeking to deny it or seeking to underplay it. But look, it's not. It might be, nationally speaking, a big tidal wave of fatalities. But where I live, a lot of the older people, they're a bit like me. They're still struggling. I mean, these people are not my best mates, but I do have tiny little chats to them. And I live in, like, a lower income kind of area. Like, it's just probably a normal kind of, like, working class kind of area, or lower middle class area, however you would put it. And these are just regular people, and a lot of them are very proud that they've survived. They're very proud they've survived. You can tell that they're very proud. They're smiling and they're relieved, and yeah. So it's not like everybody's died, I mean, or something like that. It's not like the mainstream media would portray it. But at the same time, I just think that point that I just made before is really interesting, because that has created all of these problems. That's what's created all of the problems. It's Baptists and bootleggers. It's nationalists and shills that have spooked everyone and made everyone believe that there's this China that exists that's a threat, when that's not the case. You know, China's a great place. It's a beautiful place, and the people are not a threat. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.